At Educate Texas, our vision is for all Texas students to earn a college degree or credential that leads to a living wage and thriving communities.
Texas public schools are more than just buildings, more than an institution. Wherever teaching and learning take place, we must stand together with our public schools because a strong Texas recovery requires strong public schools.
At Educate Texas, our vision is for all Texas students to earn a college degree or credential that leads to a living wage and thriving communities.
Texas public schools are more than just buildings, more than an institution. Wherever teaching and learning take place, we must stand together with our public schools because a strong Texas recovery requires strong public schools.
Hi, welcome to the Texas Tribune Festival. I'm Eva-Marie Ayala, Education Lab Editor at the Dallas Morning News. Today, we're going to be talking about education in the 87th Legislature. Please help me welcome Senator Larry Taylor, Chairman of the Education Committee in the Senate, and Representative Harold Dutton, Chairman of the Public Education Committee in the House. Now, we've had a couple of sessions, 3 sessions so far in the last few months, and we have another one coming down the line. It's been a whirlwind of a year with the pandemic setting in, and education has been, one of the key entities that has been really navigating all the complexities involved with the pandemic. What would you two say that are the key priorities and takeaways that happened for education in the last couple of sessions that we have? Senator Taylor, let's start with you.
Well, obviously, COVID has had a huge impact on our students and our educational system, and how to deal with the pandemic and how to keep kids furthering their education has been a real challenge for our districts. Many have been very creative in how they've done it. We set up a virtual education program overnight for many districts who had no experience, and obviously that's been a challenging time, and our students have unfortunately not done well for the most part in that environment. I think we've had some time to develop better programs, but obviously that's a big part of our issue. And now the challenge is how to get these kids caught back up. We cannot allow this temporary health crisis to become a permanent educational crisis for these kids in the future and for our state.
Representative Dutton?
Well, I could just say amen to what Larry just said. I will add this, though, that prior to the pandemic, we had a number of children who were at the bottom. And what this pandemic has done is created more children now at the bottom and pushed some of these kids who were at the bottom even to set now a new bottom, because we recognize that this pandemic has had a most disastrous effect on the children at the schools. And we've tried to do what we could, and I hope, and I know that the school districts are trying to do that too, so that all kids can learn, and we know that the best place for them to learn is at school. However, recognizing this pandemic though, and the science that goes along with it, we know that some kids are going to have to show up virtually for their instruction, and we've tried to at least create a bill to allow them to do that with the least object in their way to their learning. And so we're looking forward to it.
There's been a lot of progress that's been made overnight because of the pandemic. Some of the key aspects of that were access to broadband and really stepping up efforts. But the results, as Senator Taylor pointed to, have not been great. We've seen some really dramatic, test scores that were just awful. And one of the key aspects of that were kids that were learning virtually did much worse. Now that we have the infrastructure to kind of carry on virtual education a little bit more, how do we approach that, and what are you two going to be monitoring as we go forward to see how to make that better for kids who have to be in that kind of environment?
Well, I'll tell you from my standpoint, I think that we've got to be able to take a look at where we are in terms of delivery of public education services. For example, what I mean by that is that as I went around, many of the kids in my neighborhood didn't have access either to a computer or to broadband connections. But what I noticed was that they all had access to televisions. And somehow or another, I think that's an element that we've left out of this education delivery services as a way to get to students. For example, I was thinking and talking with one of my friends about, particularly in terms of the earlier grades, if we taught these kids on television and we had some of their superheroes actually being the teachers, it's just one of those elements that I think we got to do, take a look at to see how we increase this imparting of knowledge to these kids so that they become better students, and recognize that the old little red schoolhouse is just not going to be acceptable in today's climate. And so we've got to do everything we can to see if we can kind of address these needs without impacting students.
And I would add, I agree with what Chairman Dutton has said. Technology, we're now in the 21st century, and we've been kind of pushing this from the state level. If you'll remember, we started doing broadband on every campus a couple sessions ago, and not knowing COVID was coming, but thank goodness we had moved that way. We already had about 98% of our campuses had broadband access. But there's some silver linings to this COVID, and it's been a terrible educational experience for most of our kids, but we have learned some things. And we've also made some great leaps in education. For example, we now have one-to-one devices for every student in Texas. That was nothing but a pipe dream a few years ago, and we're there. Obviously, standing up an overnight virtual education system in all these over 1,000 different districts did not go well in a lot of places, and that's evidenced by our students who performed. And it's important that we know where the students are, but we've also learned some good things. We've got a commission that's going to be meeting during the interim on virtual education here in Texas to actually study what works and what doesn't work, so we can actually improve this. I've compared this numerous times, even on the Senate floor laying out the bill. People are talking about virtual education doesn't work. Well, we know that's true for most of our students, but the facts are we're comparing like a MASH unit in a military battlefield to a hospital. This thing literally was stood up in 1 week over spring break. That is not comparable to a hospital that's been designed and all these other. This is a MASH unit just doing triage. So we've now had a year and a half to get some professional development for our teachers. For those who choose to do this, we're not making teachers do virtual. We're not allowing teachers to do virtual and teach in-class students at the same time. That's almost asking for an impossible task. So we've learned a lot of things during COVID that we can make the virtual experience better. But once again, that's for a small percentage of students. It's not for the majority of our students. Most of our students need to be in a face-to-face environment with a teacher in a classroom, a good teacher in a classroom. And right now, we probably need several teachers in a classroom, whether that's retired teachers coming back and helping, which I know a lot of them are doing. We passed a law to make sure there were no penalties for our retired teachers from the retirement program. We need all hands on deck to get these kids caught up. If you remember House Bill 3 last session, and Harold, you alluded to this, was about closing the gaps. Well, unfortunately, COVID has made those gaps much larger than they were and has included a larger group. So we've got to more intensify the efforts that we started with House Bill 3 and continue forward with what we're going to do now. But we'd already done some things in House Bill 3, allowing for extended school year, extended school days, and those types of things. And now we've added some things with federal money helping us along the way, adding more tutoring. And we have an accelerated learning bill that we passed to help get these kids caught back up. So there's a lot going on in education. We've got a lot to monitor. It's hard to narrow it down in just a few minutes what all's going on. We've got a lot of things going on. We're very fortunate to have Commissioner Morath, who's leading the way on this. I think he's a man for a time such as this, has been very helpful in this process. We've got some great leaders across the state of Texas, and we're going to get through this. I'd rather be nowhere else but Texas in a time like this, because this is where we just roll up our sleeves, we get after it, get it done. And Texas is going to come through stronger at the end of the day because of this.
Well, one more thing on virtual education before we move on. Some of the studies that came out on virtual education pre-pandemic showed that they weren't working well for folks. Now we're going to have this commission to look at it. The virtual education bill that passed is only in place temporarily to fund schools. What do you want the commission to look at, and what kind of results are you looking to analyze?
Well, first of all, when you make your statement that virtual education didn't work, that is not true for some students. We have a small percentage of students who actually did better online, virtually, than they'd ever done in a classroom. One of my Senate colleagues has a granddaughter who's in junior high, is actually getting better grades in the virtual environment than she'd ever had before. So there are examples out there where kids who have, whether it's emotional issues, anxiety issues, they actually perform better. And my goal always has been for education in Texas, let's meet the student where they are. And let's give them every opportunity to succeed in whatever levels or whatever needs that they have, to make sure they have the opportunity to meet their full capabilities and have an opportunity to succeed in this state, in this country. So we have a small percentage of students who actually do better in virtual. And that's really what the bill we passed this past special session is about, is that small percentage of students. But I will say this about virtual and online. This is a great enhancement tool for every student. Not to put them in front of a screen all day, every day, but for some kids, whether they're sick, they're going to be out of school for a week or two, or they get an alternative discipline environment, they can still keep up with their class by monitoring what's going on and have an opportunity to interact with the teacher. Not having the teacher do both, but you can have a recorded session of the teacher teaching a class, and they can watch that night. And even kids that are in the class can go back home and watch it that night with their parents if they didn't get it that day, to help keep these kids on pace with where they need to be. Not to mention the ability to go self-paced. We had one exceptional example of a 12-year-old girl during COVID, got on this virtual education train, graduated high school, and got a 2-year associate's degree during COVID. 12 years old. What would that kid be doing in a typical classroom? They'd be bored to tears. But now that child has an online entrepreneurship program she's doing, marketing something. I don't even know the whole story, but that's a unique example. Obviously, that's not every student, but we have students like that, and we need to meet them where they are.
Representative Dutton, what are you going to be looking for as we look at the virtual education in the interim?
Well, I think one of the things we've got to do is figure out which students are going to be impacted the most by virtual education. And we've got to, one size won't fit all, I don't think. We can't come away with, this is the way we're going to do it for this particular time. We've got to tailor it to the students. And as Chairman Taylor mentions, we got to meet the students where they are, because there are some students who are going to benefit from virtual learning. And so we've got to be sure that this commission takes a look at all of these students and all of these opportunities in terms of improving virtual education. Like Larry said, when we did this back in House Bill 3, where we made sure that as much as we could, that broadband was available, we somehow or another didn't know this pandemic was coming. And the fact that it shows up at this point in time, causing the problems that it has in terms of education, we're going to be in a better place than had we done nothing. But the place we got to get to is still out there somewhere, where it makes it available to all the students who actually need it, and they can actually use it so that they improve their education outcomes. Because if it doesn't do that, then we've done a disservice to all of our students.
And both of y'all have kind of alluded to, students, a vast majority of students do better in person, and we're trying to get, back in class and back to normal as much as possible. But a lot of administrators that we've heard from are very frustrated in that, they felt that their hands are tied in as far as having to being able to ask for students and faculty to wear masks in schools. I mean, we see fights in school board meetings, long debates. It's very heated. It's very divisive. And, schools are going to court. There's a lot of conversations and heated debate about this. Where do y'all stand as far as letting local school districts make those decisions? And are we going to see this in the next special session? Are we going to have any kind of legislation on this?
Well, during the last session, I sponsored House Bill 164, which would have done exactly that, because I recognize that one size won't fit all, even in this situation. And so I felt that it was the best thing for us to do is to allow local communities, particularly school boards, to decide specifically how they want to address this pandemic. In some communities, you may not have nearly the outbreak that you do in others. And so they may choose one alternative. But to the extent that the districts recognize that they need some kind of mandate in terms of masks, I felt it was something they should make the choice, and not us at the state level. What happened to that bill, though, was we ran into a group, I guess, that felt that we could do that, but we ought to have an option so that parents could opt out of it. I didn't quite understand that because, as I said back then, it was kind of like having stop signs placed at a at an intersection and giving some people the option not to stop. That I felt that it was going to be a benefit to all people if you do have a mask policy. But in the final analysis, that should have been the decision made by the local school boards. And if they choose to do something different, then that's their choice. And so I just didn't think we ought to be imposing our requirements on the local school districts and local communities.
I'll just say the whole mask issue, the whole dealing with COVID in general has been a very, it's like a spectrum, and people are all the way across the spectrum from scared to death to not doing anything at all, don't know why we're doing anything at all, and everything in between. It's not like a normal political issue where you can pick a spot and you'll have one side against you, one side for you. In this case, on this spectrum, you pick any place on the spectrum, you've got the other two sides both against you. I mean, they're mad at you. So to me, it's a no-win politically, and you have parental options, you have local options at the school district. Me personally, I'd rather have the local district make those decisions and let them pay the heat for whichever decision they make, and dealing with the parents that are right there closest to them versus us trying to, like say, with over almost 1,100 districts statewide, and they're all in different situations. It's hard to make a one size fits all in a decision like that. So I just soon leave it to the local districts myself.
Now, one thing all districts are seeing is, how do we deal with this learning loss in the pandemic? How do we address the academic needs of these kids to really catch them up, to have some interventions for them? And you've alluded to some of the things that Texas has built in previously with the school finance overhaul that would allow for extended days. What are some other moves that have happened recently that you hope will help with the academic loss that we're seeing?
Well, one of the things we did that was, I think, going to be revolutionary is we passed House Bill 4545 during the regular session, which is the accelerated learning bill that provides tutoring. In fact, I think we put about $250 million in this bill that will enable students, particularly who are having difficulty, get the kind of tutoring that they need to help them get back on track. During the last regular special session, we made some changes to that, because originally what we did is we had a 1-to-3 ratio between students and teacher in terms of the tutoring. We were going to require at least 30 hours of tutoring during that school year so that students could be helped. And we changed that so now it's 1-to-10. During the special session, we changed that, thanks to Chairman Huberty. But again, that's an attempt to get at this loss of learning that's taking place because of the pandemic, and also addressing some of the needs of those students who were at the bottom pre-pandemic. And so that's one of the biggest things I think we did. And I'm hoping that generates a lot of this help that students need to overcome this loss of learning.
Well, and if I could add on House Bill 4545, the accelerated learning, that was actually promulgated for stuff that is happening pre-COVID.
Right.
And we found out early in session that we have about, on average, about 20% of our students grade below grade level every year. And after 2 or 3 years of remediation, under our current system, about 4% of those students ever got caught up. That's a dramatic failure. We were not aware of that statistic. The commissioner gave us that early in the session. And that's where that came from, House Bill 4545. We've got to do something different. And then you add COVID on top of that. We obviously have to do something different. We can't have 4% of the students who are behind today get caught up in 2 to 3 years. So it's pretty dramatic. There's some strong requirements in there. For example, if you have a special needs child, they have an ARD committee that gets together and comes up with a plan. How are you going to educate that child? Well, now we have the similar type committee for every student that's below grade level. How are we going to get this student caught back up? I mean, we're going to put a real emphasis on making sure these kids do not get left behind. And once again, you add COVID on top of it. We're talking about a significant number of kids. And yes, it's a lot of resources, but we're not asking teachers that are already there to do all this. We're asking for help. Teachers have already got enough going on. They've got a lot of stressors already. We want to bring people in, and that's where this money is coming, is there to help. You know, the federal government is sending our local districts directly to them $16 billion. So right now, money is not a problem. And I hear it's hard to find people. Well, guess what? If you pay them more, you'll get more people. And you can make this where it works. We've got to get all hands on deck. We're in a crisis, and we've got to get caught up. But we can't wait 4 or 5 years to do this. You know, kids at different learning brain development stages, there are things that they miss at those points in time. They don't gather them back. And we've got to make sure we meet those needs now as soon as possible. And this federal money has to be spent in the next 2.5, 3 years. So it's for this very purpose, and we've helped supplement from the state as well. But we're not settling for the status quo. These kids that are behind, we need to get them caught up. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts, and failure is not an option. We've got to get these kids caught up, or we will not be the state that we are today in the very near future.
Right. I will only add this too. I mean, one of the statistics that I realized is that between the ages of 18 and 25, we have almost 5 million people in Texas who don't have a high school diploma. That's tragedy. That's a tragedy. I mean, that portends all kinds of negative things for the state of Texas. And we've not only got to stop that, we've got to do something about addressing the needs of those adults who somehow or another didn't get what they needed. One of the things we realized, though, is that, you know, and I had to read a bunch of things before I realized this, that between pre-K and 3rd grade, what the child does is learn how to read. And after 3rd grade, you read to learn. But if you never overcome that hurdle of learning to read, you simply never get to the point where you can read to learn. And so we've got to stop that, because I was looking at the numbers in my district. Only 30% of the 3rd graders were reading on grade level. That's a tragedy. That's a tragedy. We just can't accept that. We've got to do everything we can to make sure that doesn't happen. And I think as Chairman Taylor points out, with the money the feds have given them, with the money we've appropriated to do the things that they need to do in education, the fact that we've made the changes regarding retired teachers being able to come back into the system, those are the kinds of things that we're going to have so that we at least improve education outcomes all throughout our whole system. And so I'm looking forward to doing that. And I know Chairman Taylor is as well.
You know, and Representative Dutton, you've alluded to this several times, you know, a lot of this is growing on the inequities and the gaps that we've seen, you know, throughout our education system. And we've had a lot of school boards and administrators really stand up in the past year to say, okay, we really got to get at the heart of what our inequities are, you know, address our systemic problems, look at all the racial gaps happening. And, you know, they built racial equity teams. They have, you know, done all these different projects. And then the so-called anti-critical race theory bill has come out and really, you know, charged up a lot of folks, and school boards and administrators are really concerned that this is going to, you know, one, hinder the work that they're doing to trying to address some of these gaps and have these conversations, and to, you know, really hurt discussions that are happening in the classroom, you know, especially when it comes to current events or having, you know, navigating these difficult conversations that, you know, students are having. You know, how do you see this, you know, new laws really impacting our classrooms and our schools?
Well, let me start this way. Much of what we've been talking about was not being taught in the classroom in the first place in the public schools. And so I'm not sure how you prevent talking about something that you weren't talking about in the first place. But secondly, I think that teachers and local school districts are going to have to make the decision on how to best educate their children. We ought to provide guidance in terms of doing that, but I don't think we can sit there and tell them what book to read or what book not to read, or how the students should engage in their activities or extracurricular activities. I think that's the wrong approach for us. I think when we start doing things like that, we are accepting the fact that while we have the responsibility for getting every student educated in the state, it doesn't mean we ought to micromanage the system to the point where we begin to do all these other things. We have a state board of education that develops the TEKS, the essential knowledge and skills that are going to be addressed in each grade level. And I think we have to rely on them to do their job so that we know that a student, once leaving public schools, has got the best education they can get in this whole country, bar none. And we've got to be sure that we can do that. And if we're doing anything that gets in the way of that, I think we have to take a look at ourselves and say, look, what kind of students do we want?
I would just say, and I'd have to disagree with one thing Chairman Dutton just said. No, you're right. It's not being taught in all our schools, but it is out there. And I've seen some of the materials, and they're very offensive, to be honest with you. And they're going on other states. And it started in academia, and it started getting into our educational, our public education system. And, you know, these students, young students and children, they're not born with racial issues. You have to teach that. And I'm afraid that the critical race theory, that the things that I've seen with it say things like you're white, that means you're this, this, and this. If someone were to say that about any other race, they'd be called racist. But they're saying that, and they're telling these kids, oh, your friend is a white person, so that means they're this, this, and this. And that could not be further from the truth. As far as educational gaps, to me, it's not about race, it's about income. And I would prefer that we start grouping students based on income versus race, because we all know there are people of all races who are doing very well in their educational experience, and there's students of all races who are not doing well. And I don't necessarily think it's race, it's income and how much parental support they get and those types of things. But, you know, the critical race theory, what I've seen of it, it looks to me like it's causing racial tension. That I'm trying to, the world I live in, we're moving past that. And to try to train up another generation of people saying there's something different based on your skin color, you're just adding, you're passing racism on to another generation. So no, it's not in all of our schools, but we don't want it in any of our schools. We want these kids growing up thinking they all have an opportunity, knowing that they all have the opportunity to do well in this country, depending on how well they want to apply themselves. And there are students who start off with low income backgrounds. That's my whole goal, is to get those kids out of that situation, because you're changing those family trees for those students, because their kids, if they get a good education, get a good job, their kids will not be in the same situation that they were. And that's my goal, is to try to get these kids out of the situation and not keep them in that situation. And I just think bringing racial disharmony to it is not helpful at all.
So
I would just say this, that you know, in our educational system, geography, where the student lives, has more to do with the education outcomes than just about anything. And the truth of the matter is that we still have a system that there are some students who, for example, live on my side of town, who have to get up every morning to catch a bus to go across town to get an education in our system. I think that therein lies the greatest challenge we have, and that is improving the education outcomes for all of the students and making sure that we have the right education in every corner of the state. And if it's Northeast Houston, we have the better schools, the best schools we can have in the state, whether they happen to be on a Black side of town or a Hispanic side of town, that we're going to do what we can to make sure that school has the best education programs, and we make sure that those students have the best outcomes educationally, because that's right now, unfortunately, that's not the case. And I think sometimes when we get go down certain roads, we forget that geography ought not to play a role in a student's education outcomes. And that's a tragedy. That's something I think more than anything, we've got to overcome and make sure that that doesn't happen. Because as I said to the school district here, a bad school around the corner and a good school across town is not a choice.
Well, and I would just say that's the beauty of our accountability system. You're right, Harold. Predominantly, we know where those schools are that are not doing well, but we have exceptions in very challenging campuses, very challenging districts where they are doing an incredible job. And that shows me that it can be done. It has to do with leadership and wanting to do things that may be different than what they've done in the past. And really, once again, not accepting failure and not lowering expectations for these students. Because you and I, Harold, you and I both know, we've seen these districts that are far exceeding expectations for what you would think they would be doing based on where they are and the student body they have. You know, our schools don't get to pick their students. They're in a neighborhood, that's their students. It's what they do with those students. And that's where our accountability system is shown that just because you have that population that can be challenging doesn't mean you cannot succeed with those students. And that's what we're trying to promote with the accountability and best practices. Let's get those ideas that are working in some of those areas. Let's spread them out to the other areas where they're not working. And we are providing additional money. You know, during House Bill 3, a big part of it was providing more income for our low-income students to make sure they have those same opportunities to get caught up and to have the same attainment level. These are challenges, but we're working on them because it's a big problem. In the state of Texas, 60% of our students qualify for a free and reduced lunch. That's our largest demographic. It's also our fastest growing demographic. And historically, as you know, Harold, we've not done a good job. And that's what House Bill 3 was all about, was making sure we do a better job for our low income students. And it was just getting going, and then COVID hits. So we're not done with House Bill 3 yet, but that was a huge hurdle that was thrown in front of us that we're having to deal with. But I still think House Bill 3 and the effort behind us is going to make that difference. We just got to get through COVID.
Well, thank you both so much for your time. This is certainly conversations that we could continue on. And I do hope the next time that we have this, it can be in person. Thank you so much for joining us, Senator Taylor, Representative Dutton. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And stay with us.